There was a time in Daniel Monroe's life when he believed he had burned every trace of faith from his home. A pile of Bibles, devotionals, and old Sunday school materials all turned to ash in his backyard one summer evening. The smoke rose like a silent protest, as if heaven itself was watching in sorrow. But Daniel didn't care. He was done with God, done with prayers, churches, and false hope. Or so he thought. Daniel hadn't always been this way. Once he was the boy in the front pew, clean shirt, polished shoes, Bible in hand, reciting verses with a heart full of wonder. His mother, Elena, was the soul of the family. A woman of quiet strength, she'd rise early to kneel by her bed and whisper the same prayer each morning. Lord, keep my family close to you. His father, Tom, was different. He played the role of a good Christian man in public, but behind closed doors the mask would fall. Words that shamed, anger that burned hotter than any fire Daniel would ever set. And while his mother clung to faith, Daniel quietly began to resent it. If God was real, why did he let his mother suffer under the weight of a man like that? By the time Daniel was 17, he had already begun pulling away. First it was Sunday school, then youth group, then church altogether. He told his mother he needed space. She didn't argue. She just nodded with a sadness in her eyes and said, I'm still praying for you. When Elena passed away from a sudden stroke, everything broke. Daniel remembered standing by her hospital bed, holding her cold, lifeless hand, and whispering through clenched teeth, if you were real, you would have saved her. His father, who stood across the room, barely spoke a word. The grief didn't unite them. It only widened the gap. After the funeral, Daniel came home to find a stack of his mother's things, journals, Bible study guides, notes written in her delicate handwriting, and Bibles, so many Bibles, as if she had believed that someday he'd want one again. In a fit of fury, Daniel hauled them all outside. He doused the pile in lighter fluid and set them ablaze. He watched them burn, arms crossed, heart stone cold. There, he muttered, that's the last of you. But it wasn't. Over the next few years, Daniel's life seemed normal on the surface. He moved to a different city, took up a job in IT, and lived quietly. No church, no faith, no friends who believed. He had convinced himself he was free from what he called religious control. Still, something lingered, a whisper in the back of his mind, a verse he couldn't quite forget. It came from a day long ago when he was 9 and his mother had asked him to memorize Psalm 34:18. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. No matter how hard he tried to erase it, that verse wouldn't leave him. Even when he tried drowning it out with music or distraction, it echoed in the quietest hours, like a gentle knock on a locked door. One night a call came. His father had suffered a stroke, severe. The hospital didn't expect him to last through the weekend. The nurse said Tom had listed Daniel as his only emergency contact. Daniel almost didn't go. He stared at the message for hours. Then, without knowing why, he packed a bag and drove through the night. When he arrived at the hospital, the sight of his father shocked him. The strong, harsh man he once feared now lay weak, tubes attached, skin pale. He looked small. A nurse noticed Daniel hesitating by the door. He's been asking for you, she said softly. Daniel stepped in. The room was quiet except for the steady beeping of machines. Dad, he said. His father's eyes fluttered open. Weakly, he turned his head. His lips moved, barely audible. Daniel. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Years of silence filled the space between them. I didn't think you'd come, Tom whispered. I didn't think I would either. Daniel replied honestly. Tom closed his eyes, tears slipping down the sides. I was wrong, so wrong. To you, to your mom, to God. Daniel felt something stir inside, anger maybe, or something softer, something he hadn't let himself feel in years. Tom struggled to breathe. I kept one thing from your mother. His trembling hand gestured toward the nightstand. Daniel opened the drawer and found a small, worn Bible, his mother's. Inside was a folded paper, a note in her handwriting. Daniel, it read, if you ever find this, I want you to know something. Even if you burn every Bible in the world, God's word will still find you. His love never gives up. Daniel sat down, hands shaking. He turned to the page marked with a faded ribbon. Psalm 34:18. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. That was the verse, the one that had never left him. Tears filled Daniel's eyes. For the first time in years, he didn't fight them. He looked at his father, who was now barely conscious. She never gave up on either of us. Tom nodded faintly. That night, Daniel stayed at the hospital, not out of obligation, but something deeper. He read from the Bible aloud, mostly to himself, but perhaps so his father could hear too. When morning came, his father was gone. Daniel buried him beside his mother on a hill overlooking the town. As the sun broke through the clouds during the service, Daniel felt something he hadn't felt in a long, long time. Peace. Weeks later, Daniel moved back to his childhood home. He didn't rush back into religion, but every morning he opened his mother's Bible. Sometimes he'd read for hours, not out of duty, but because it felt like coming home. And the verse that once haunted him, now it guided him. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. Because in the end, it wasn't the fire that changed him. It was the verse that refused to be erased. Sometimes the words we try hardest to forget are the ones that save us. You may not believe today. You may be angry, lost, or hurting. But truth doesn't burn away in ashes. And love, real love, waits patiently in the silence. Just like that one verse, holding on until your heart is ready to listen.